Okay, so I am left off at the media and popularity. That's right. So I was talking about, how kids nowadays are convinced by the media to be popular and to just follow the system and do what everyone else does. Like you have to buy the latest shoe that's out there, the latest phone, or else you're not cool and popular and high class like us. And then it convinces them that they should just go through high school and get the best grades and go on to the very best college. Otherwise, you're just not a good person, And it's almost like the noblemen, like, oh, the kids who follow the media, who are popular, we are like the noblemen in society. That's right, and oh, I can't date a kid who is not of my clique because he's not a nobleman or she's not a nobleman like I am, and everybody knows that noblemen can only be noblemen, so I'm going to do things that make me look good, and I'm just going to do things because society says it's the right thing to do, and it makes me look good, and I'm a little Queen of England. Even though, truth be told, this is just media programming the way kids are to behave. You see the girls going down the street talking about their gossip and stuff like that, and it's all just really shallow and superficial. There's not anything really good or moral about it. Like people try to put moral character to being like the quote unquote nobleman, because now popularity has become, or the quote unquote nobleman, because popularity in high school and so forth is it's controlled by the media. It's what the media says it should be, and therefore that's what kids act like. And everybody who doesn't follow the system in high school, everyone who doesn't, not in high school, everything and in society is considered to be a low, and it's crazy. Just, my gosh, popularity was always stupid, but it just, no change in it ever makes it any better. I'm gonna say, being popular and having a lot of friends and people that like you and being nice, that's what counts. But that's one thing that's definitely wrong with society, is people just doing what the media and the majority in the state and the government and their principal and all the super famous people and stars and all that say what they should do, and not really what is right, and not doing the right thing, whether society looks up to it or not. That's all I have for media and popularity. And now I have propaganda, miseducation, and bias. Oh geez, propaganda, that definitely has to go back to the media, whole media thing. There's all sorts of propaganda, that can really relate to all these issues. For starters, every advertisement you see on a commercial is propaganda. Keep that in mind. It wants you to buy their product. Now, it could be a good product, it could be a bad product. Every commercial you see is propaganda. And government, they want to make commercials that make you think guns are bad, so they post this shooting that happened recently, and everybody's crying over it, and they're like, see, we need more gun control. And then you go into school, which is education. Education probably is going to be a part of all this, because what you learn when you're young follows you for your whole life. And so, when you go to the whole miseducation part, in school, you're going to a school that's run by the government. So, they're clearly going to be pro-government. It'd be like if you were to go to McDonald's and you were to learn about health and nutrition. Well, you can't learn about health and nutrition at McDonald's. I mean, come on, that's going to be totally biased. They're going to sell you a bunch of junk. Well, that's sort of what it's like in the media. It's always pro-government. And then what it's like in education, as I've said numerous times in this video, everybody is just required to... There's no education part. Everyone's just required and asked to go to college as soon as they graduate, to take all of the really hard classes. And nowadays our education system's gotten to just a terrible point where the kids are going to school twice. Kids are both going to a public school and being homeschooled because they go to school and then they go home and all they do all day is homework. There are some kids like that, and then they can whine about it all the time. And if you confront them and say, "Hey, this isn't what you need to do. This isn't, necessary. You can make it without it," they just look down at you and say, "Oh no, stop! I need this." And it's just, you don't whine around and say you have a disease and then meet a doctor who can cure you and then don't do it. That's another problem. Just what kids are taught pro-government from their little on up. I don't think our education system's healthy at all. And again, it has to do with the quicksand principle, where the more of it you have, the further things sink. Everybody has to go to a super, super expensive college, and then 70 to 80% of those people don't even pay off their debt in the end. They can't even get out of their debt, and it's just insane. Was that even really worth it? For being in a big place where you're hardly learning anything. And then, again, this also goes to bias against the little guy. You have to go to a big university or prestigious college. You can't go to just a little community college or like the little guy's college or something like that. You can't join an apprenticeship or anything. It always has to be the biggest and the best, no matter what, because otherwise you're not going anywhere and you're just a stupid little peasant. Get away from me. It's what it is. And we constantly say, "Oh, we need more education," but you're not really educating them at all. You're indoctrinating them and just making them dumber, and it's not taking them anywhere. School is a place where students aren't taught, they're manufactured. School is basically an assembly line now where they just throw information in your head and don't actually teach you to be any smarter and get you to behave and follow this system, and they get you to be a quote-unquote acceptable member of society, because if you don't just take all the hard classes as a kid, get all good grades, and go to college, the best college, then there's something morally wrong with you, according to them. It's almost as if, you're not doing what's right, and that's, unacceptable because you're not big in society. You're not close to der Führer. It means you're just like a little peasant. And, it's just... it's stupid. Just all the biases that people are taught in school. Everything's always one-sided. There's never another side to anything, and that's definitely what's wrong. And it's a one-size-fits-all education system. So, a lot of times people with their quote-unquote disabilities, learning disabilities, those are actually a form of gift. That can actually really help them. But our education's suited to only fit one kind of person. So that's probably all for propaganda and miseducation bias. Next I have coercion, control, and the state. This is probably one of the huger issues, is that the government gets whatever they want and they use coercion for it. And this is why I don't believe in government, because they don't want you doing drugs because that's bad for society, and I don't think you should do drugs, and I don't support it, but they tell you, if you do, then they'll kidnap you. They'll kidnap you. If you try to fight back, they'll beat you up. If you try to kill them, they'll murder you. Okay? Let me get this straight. Every time a cop arrests somebody for using or selling drugs, it is not an arrest. It is a kidnapping. And another thing that's also bad is paying taxes. Taxation is theft. It doesn't matter if a king or government or politician says it's okay. It doesn't matter if the majority of the people say it's okay. Taxation is theft. Every time somebody gets arrested and goes to jail for not paying taxes, they are being kidnapped. Okay? Every time a SWAT team busts into somebody's house to arrest them, and that person pulls out a gun and tries to fight back, and the SWAT team shoots that person was murdered by the cops, which really is just another gang, pretty much. And the government is just a gang, and it's terrible. It's what's called coercion. The non-aggression principle is when you don't do anything violent to anyone else unless they first do something violent to you. And Well, the cop is the one that originally wanted to arrest the guy who was on drugs, right? And every time a SWAT team breaks into a house on a drug raid, every time they shoot someone who tries to fight back, who tries to resist, they murdered that person. Every time they send one of those people to jail, they are kidnapping that person. They are not any different than any other murderer, thug, or kidnapper you're going to see on the streets. In fact, they are worse because they have better equipment and they're the biggest and the baddest ones. Okay, this is why I honestly am going to say I do not believe there's such a thing as a good cop. There, I said it. You're all going to be shocked now. But, I mean, there are many. It's not just drugs and not paying your taxes. I mean, there are tons of ways in society the government forces you to do things by quote-unquote laws. You know, like, they violate your property rights. They won't let you have your porch a certain way you want it because it violates the zoning laws or something. It's just ridiculous. Okay, number 8, I have eugenics. And that's definitely something that's causing a problem in society. Them putting poison in our food and in our water and in our clothing and all sorts of bad things. You have fluoride, which is actually first used in Nazi concentration camps to make the Jews dumb, is now being put into our water. It's now being basically to control us all, to control the masses, to dumb us all down so the government can control us. And the people who are against fluoride always say things like, I'm sorry, the people who are against fluoride don't have their own kids drink fluoride, which is extremely hypocritical. And then there's stuff like Feminal, which is in plastic, which contains a female hormone, which is increasing breast cancer by an awful lot, and it's destabilizing men. It's all about like population control and, you know, Nazi eugenics and stuff like that. Like they say there's too many people on the earth when there's not nearly too many people on the earth. That's bullcrap. They say they do all sorts of things. Like they put, like psychotropic drugs is another one. They controls our mind. It gets into our head, and it harms us in a really bad way. It often causes school shootings, and they give it to you in schools because if you have a learning deficiency, then everybody has to learn the same way. And so there are these things called deficiencies when really they're quote unquote gifts. And so yeah, you know, that's definitely a problem, and it's dumbing them down. So they want kids in school to be smarter when they give them pills, many of which have fluoride in them, and just make them dumber, which is again proof that our education system isn't really about being smart. It's just about coercion and pointing kids in the right direction, manufacturing them since they're young. But yeah, you know, I'm sure there's much more that can be said about eugenics and all the poison they put in our food and water, but I'm going to go on to secularism. This is definitely an issue that should be brought up. You know, a lot of you guys are probably just going to say, oh, you're just a stupid Christian, you know, you're trying to, you know, brainwash us. No, it's not just that. It's like, even if you don't believe in Christianity or God, like, you should still admit that there's something more to us, you know what I'm saying? And I'm probably gonna end up having to continue this into the next video, but you see, like, how psychology works. It's always like a math equation. It's always like, if I do the right thing, I'm gonna get the right results. And it's gonna be this way for every single individual who has like a certain problem, when in reality, you know, they have a spirit, they have a soul. They're not bound by their genetics, they have free will. And so doing the same thing isn't going to get the same reaction all the time. Or not the same person, see what I'm saying? Well, I'm going to have to make a part 3 of this, and hopefully not a part 4. But for now, I'll feed her in and make another one of these.